Hi, you're watching Floyd Steinberg's YouTube channel. Today, the Wunderkammer WoO.1. This is a tiny battery-powered sampler and sequencer. If you're interested, please join me in this video. Here we go. So, a few weeks ago, Wunderkammer contacted me if I wanted to get my hands on a prototype of their WoO.1 sampler in exchange for my impressions and some feedback. And I'm not going to lie, when I saw the demo video, my first thought was, oh my god, give please. So a parcel arrived a week later. Inside there was the WoO.1 and the USB cable. I also got an email with a preliminary manual. The production and refinement of this instrument here will be funded through a Kickstarter campaign, which starts on August 19th, 2025, and I post a link to that in this video's description. Please watch this video to the end to hear my experiences with Kickstarter campaigns and what my feedback to Wunderkammer was. The WoO.1 prototype here has a 24 keys keyboard, 2 encoders, 9 menu buttons, a built-in speaker and microphone, a USB port for media and data transfer, a 3.5mm stereo audio output and an on-off switch. It's standing on rubber feet so it doesn't move around, and there's an embedded reset button should things go wrong. The battery will last up to 5 hours when using the internal speaker and up to 50 hours when used with external speakers or headphones. The internal storage is 247 megabytes, which amounts to 48 minutes of mono samples or 24 minutes of stereo samples. The design is great and so is build quality. The keys are a bit like good notebook keys, a bit clicky with roughly 2mm of travel space. Every key has a status LED, the device is sturdy, doesn't bend and weighs roughly 280 grams. It's 24.5 centimeters times 7.7 centimeters wide. Right, before I start a walkthrough through the WoO.1, the most important thing you might want to know, how to use this as a sampler. It's quite easy. Just press the sample button and then hold sample and record. And now you've set it into sampling mode, and now hold down record and say something, do something or make a noise. And now you can trim the sample with left and right encoders while holding the instrument button. If you're satisfied with your sample, just press the sample button again and it will be stored in the sample slot you've selected previously. In this example, in the second bank on the first slot. Okay, so the basic usage is you can switch between instrument and sampler mode using the upper row of buttons here. There's an octave switch, play and record for using the internal sequencer. There's a click track you can use, and the Wunder key is used for accessing special functionality, which we'll take a look at later. The 2 encoders are used for controlling the main volume and the track volume. In instrument mode, you can use the built-in samples that are pre-installed on this device. For example, here's an electric piano. There are a lot of instruments pre-installed here, and you can switch through banks using the black keys and then select an instrument using the white keys. Okay, there's also an Arpeggiator here. In order to access it, you can use the instrument button and then press the Wunder key. And now this starts blinking, which tells us the Arpeggiator is active. And if you hold the click key here, then you can set up your own rhythms for the Arpeggiator. So for example, let's add a note here. Yeah, this is a nice feature. You can come up with all kinds of rhythms and variations here. There's also accompaniment mode, so you can play back grooves while you're playing an instrument or a sample. Just press play to do this. You can select the groove holding the groove button and then playing one of the white keys. Okay, let's try this with an instrument. Nice. There's also finger drumming mode. You can upload your own samples to the WoO.1 by holding the Wunder button when turning on the device, and then you can connect it to a computer and upload samples. I've uploaded a couple of samples here to Bank 1, and now each of these white keys represents an instrument. But if I hold sample and Wunder, I can now play this as a drum set. So let's try something. Or something like this. Yeah, and that leads us to the next function, recording your own patterns. Okay, the looper. Start by setting the tempo. Hold down the click button and then you can set the tempo with the black keys. You can fine adjust it with the white keys. Once done, hold down record and play. And now we're going to go into sample mode again and activate our drum kit. Now let's deactivate recording and select an instrument. Okay. Okay. Nice. Once done, you can save your creation holding the record key and groove to save this as a MIDI file. Or you can save it as a sample in the sample slot you've selected, and it will be mixed down for further processing. While playing back a sequence, pressing record and Wunder will take you to the effects mode, which includes filters and tape speed. Let's take a look at that. Now hold down one of the black keys. Nice. Once you've recorded 2 or more loops, you can arrange them into a sequence or a song using the playlist feature. To access that, hold down Groove and press Wunder. And now you can see we have 2 loops already here, and I'm going to arrange them. So hold down the record key, and then I want this to play 2 times, and this to play 2 times. Now you can press playback. Now. Nice thing about this is you can now leave playlist mode and play an instrument, but once you start playback, the sequence you just recorded will be played back in order, and you can play on top of that with any instrument you like. So what to think of the Wunderkammer WoO.1? Well, in case I didn't clearly mention this up to here, this is a tape roll style sequencer, which means with every loop of the looper, you just overdub the notes you play onto the existing tape. In case you make mistakes, you can then undo your steps and remove the last take from that loop. But once your recording is finished, you can't edit it. And with this prototype, it wasn't possible to load existing loops and continue working on them. Now there are workarounds for this. You can export your samples easily to your computer and then turn them into samples, load them back onto the WoO.1 and then reuse them in a new loop. That's how I made the introduction of this video, but it's quite complicated to do so. Also, the sampling itself on the WoO.1 is quite basic. Yes, you can start sampling quickly and easily by a button press, but it would be nice if we had auto sampling, for example, so volume rises above a certain threshold, sampling starts, volume drops below that threshold, sampling stops. And it would be nice to have more complicated sampling techniques like granular sampling, or even the possibility to loop samples so you can create sustained sounds like strings or pads or something without wasting a lot of storage space. One more gripe I had with this is MIDI is not always on. You can boot this device into MIDI mode, but then it purely acts as a MIDI keyboard and the sampler is turned off. I hope in the marketed version of this product this will be fixed so MIDI is available at any time. One more criticism is there is no audio input jack. Working with the microphone is sufficient most of the times, but if you want a really good stereo audio recording, you have to import it at the moment, which takes out some of the fun of the workflow. Also, it would be nice to have editable envelopes. When using the instrument mode, it's obvious there are envelopes on this sampler, but you can't edit them in any way. Also, please make the filters available in every play mode, not only in the looper. It would be nice to, for example, just play a drum loop and then use the bandpass filter on it. The design of the WoO.1 is great, but it's hard to memorize the key combos, which buttons to press simultaneously to activate all the editing modes found on this device. So why not print them onto the enclosure here in a lighter tone? That would be helpful. And while the WoO.1 is stereo, it's not possible to pan the instruments. Being able to do that would enable us to give more room to our loops. It would also be nice to be able to assign note ranges to individual samples. There's finger drumming mode, which is nice, but it would also be nice to assign a sample to 5 notes or so in order to create piano patches, for example. But despite these criticisms, I like the WoO.1 a lot. It's a simple sampler and sampling works really fast. Being able to mount this as a USB drive to download your loops or MIDI files or to upload new samples from other sources is a great and user-friendly way of handling things. Chaining loops to create songs is a great idea as well, and it worked flawlessly every time I tried it. Also, this is a great design. It's very pocketable and it does look great on camera, no doubt about that. And overall, the user interface is easy enough to grasp, so you can get results very quickly. In other words, this is a good foundation to start from, and the design is flexible enough to incorporate a lot of new features over firmware updates. So if you want to support the Kickstarter campaign, a link is in my video's description. Here's the usual word of warning though. Supporting a project on Kickstarter does not guarantee that you will actually receive a product in the end. The Kickstarter campaign could fail, and then your money is gone. That being said, all the Kickstarter campaigns I supported in the past went through successfully, so I've got my Moto Synth and I've got my Falcon drone and a handful of other devices. And you're adult responsible people, so you decide on your own what to do with your own money. From my gut feeling, Wunderkammer is a trustworthy company, but please take a look at their campaign and website yourself to draw your own conclusions. So if you think this was an interesting YouTube video, please do the YouTube thing. As always, thanks for watching and see you again very, very soon. Bye bye!